gives Xenocider the chance to get a tank out, and it gives him a chance to establish his defenses more.
And from here, Xenocider is sitting on a small lead, but pretty comfortable. QXE doing, in my opinion, the right thing of going for a really quick third command center. There's really no aggressive options from Xenocider, considering that he's playing really defensive. He's afraid of the Hellbat drop.
Yeah.
And you really can't move out until you get a good number of upgrades as well, considering that, again, Hellbats around the map.
QXC's playing interestingly here. He's using a Widow Mine at the front to potentially bait a bunch of his enemy units into that. That was a really awkward sentence, and I am very sorry for that. But one way or the other, it's like blah, 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 blither, blither. QXC is sitting on the third base right now, the location that Xenocide is about to take. He, I imagine, is going to try and catch a worker transfer with this, but I think it's probably going to go off here already. Yeah, there. Actually takes a Hellion out. Then you've got this Hellbat drop to the side, then the Hellbat drop up to the top. And the Hellbat drop to the top is actually going to die. That is a really nice pick off here by Xenocider. That is going down.
Yeah, that's huge.
Nicely done. Yeah, that's really good. That kind of screwed the opportunity up. But the Hellbat drop comes in, and let's see how much damage it can actually do. Significant amounts. It takes a little bit of tank fire there as well. Hasn't done that well. It's about to get cleaned up, and it's actually still alive. There we go. It's now being cleaned up. The aggression at the front hasn't really happened. Overall damage done. Like, he only killed 5 workers with that. That wasn't that great.
Yeah, I really thought he would be able to kill a little bit more. The Hellbat survived a long time, and he's managed to get both those out. But still, Xenocider pulled his SCVs just in time. Not a lot of damage done. QXC's Widow Mines also get scanned and picked off. And, QXC is not following it up with mech. He's going to go bio instead. He is playing a little bit farther behind because of it. You can see everything is just slightly delayed. The combat shields, the infantry upgrades. Although QXC isn't too far behind on the third base timing. So how is Xenocider going to be able to capitalize on this? He's going to instead load up a tank into his medevac. I thought there was a Hellbat originally. I'm like, I don't think he made any Hellbats.
Yeah, that was
Xenocider really stays away from Hellbats.
Yeah, that's an odd thing indeed. Loading the tank up seems like he'd probably just want to move it around the map quicker instead of getting it picked off there. Currently, these guys playing pretty passively. QXC's Hellbat drop is going in again. There's already a Viking there, so it may even be that those Hellbats don't even get to land, depending on how quick QXC actually is with that, and that would be another great shutdown there. Armory now being added on for Xenocider. Very well. I mean, honestly, he's been on double engineering bay for this long, so he may not even elect to actually build any Hellbats with that. He'll probably just go into 2-2.
And from there, he has a lot of other options. I really don't think, well, as you can see the drop, the medevac taken out, but the Hellbat trying to do as much damage as possible. I really don't think this force out here from Xenocider can do very much.
Well, Xenocider just killed about 5 of his own workers with that tank shot. That's the nasty thing about that, and defending it with tanks, you end up in that situation where the tanks actually end up shelling their own compadres. And right now, Xenocider just trying to deal with the harassment of QXC, taking some damage in the process. QXC, of course, behind this has established his third base, and is on a significantly higher SCV count.
That's really nice for QXC. Actually, I'm really surprised because Xenocider had the fast third command center. He also had... Well, in terms of the placement, he also had the opportunity to kill some SCVs, but QXC climbing back with some harass. Yep. This push from Xenocider shouldn't really be able to threaten QXC, though, truthfully.
I don't think so. The production from QXC is absolutely phenomenal here. There's a slight amount of superiority, but it doesn't look like it's going to matter because... That was a huge blunder there by Xenocider. He ran right into that, lost a huge amount of units. That was uncharacteristic of him. I don't think he was just expecting that army to be there, and he wasn't quick enough with the response. He lost like 2 tanks, lost a bunch of marauders. They just wandered into this concave, and now QXC actually has the momentum, I think, to at least threaten or try and contain his opponent.
Well, interestingly enough, I can't believe it took me so long to notice, but Xenocider went such heavy amount of marauders. I think he really expected mech out of his opponent, and QXC went marine tank. Those Marauders can't even really directly engage against the Marines without major tank support, and QXC now is a huge anchor point within the main base of Xenocider. He can pick off things right out of the production.
Yeah, that's really, really nice, and he's going to try and grab as much of that as he can, and he's doing a good job of making that work. And Xenocider will get pushed back into the line of the tanks, which makes things very, very unpleasant. However, aggression is coming in. QXE is going to take out the third base. A push is going to come in from Xenocider here to try and break this. More Marines are reinforcing, though. I don't see him breaking this at all. Not with that many Marauders. They don't have the kind of damage necessary. Xenocider pulling off the line here, trying to engage against this, but the tanks then get the shelling in. I mean, QXE has the perfect position here, is engaging the third base. QXE is finally going to get cleaned up at the third, but has dealt a huge amount of damage. Xenocider is way behind its supply, and GG's immediately.
Very well done by QXE again, using that knowledge against Xenocider, and that's actually I really feel like Xenocider just tried to blind counter his opponent. He did scan QXE though. That's why I'm a little bit confused. But I guess he kept scanning the natural. I kept seeing the natural being scanned. He didn't scan the main base. Would have saw the slew of barracks. Would have stopped Marauder production because he has something like 16 to 20 Marauders, and that is just way too much gas in the wrong direction, as well as just production time on the barracks.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right there. He was expecting mech, and he didn't get mech. So his Marauders like, well, what are we going to do? Not an awful lot, really. Not against Marine tank. That's not going to work out too well. You know, there are situations where you can flank and do good damage with the Marauders, but no. QXE put on a really, really good stranglehold, but even then, you've got to look at that nasty engagement that happened in the center of the map, where Xenocider just wasn't paying attention. He misrallied his units, he didn't stim, and he got completely surrounded and cut off. He tries to evacuate, he loses the medevac that has the tank in it, which is even more of a sting, and then suddenly QXE seizes the opportunity, and at that point, there's really not a lot that Xenocider can do.
Yeah, I'm just kind of confused his move out timing. It was not really, the only thing it synced up was +1/+1, but even then he kind of sat there at the tower for a good minute and a half and then moved to the other tower. Yeah. And that doesn't really give you any tactical positioning because in TVT you have to think about space, right? Space is just so important. If you control this avenue, then there's no counterattack. You can shut down the drops. You can make sure the tanks clip any kind of movement. But in that scenario, I just felt like Xenocider was moving out for the sake of just moving out and not really having intention, while QXE, when he moved out, said, I'm going to counterattack, I'm going to take an anchor in your main base, and you can't do anything about it.
Yep, sounds about right to me. All right, we're going to... I don't think we'll take a break, actually. I think we're good. We can go into the next game. I don't see any reason for that. We're already getting to the second lobby, so it'll be nice to round things up today. Great game from QXE. Xenocider looking a little bit shaky here. Now picks Neoplanet S. So if we don't see early aggression out of him here, then I have to wonder when it'll ever happen.
Yeah, Planet S is not actually, well, the ramp / the main base does touch the ground a little bit, so Reapers can be pretty effective, but you don't see too much Reaper builds on Planet S, other than just one. When I'm talking about Reaper builds, I'm talking about like 2 Barracks Reaper, which has gotten actually quite popular in TVT. I want to see what Xenocider has in store. Indeed.
All right, we'll be going into the next game pretty much right now, I think. I don't see any reason to hang around, so we are ready to rock and roll. Let's see if QXE can close out the series 2-0, or whether Xenocider will be able to make the comeback. Neoplanet S will be the venue for that. And here we go.
Neoplanet S, a pretty good map in my opinion. I don't know why people don't like it. I guess maybe they don't like playing on it, but I like what it offers in terms of risk versus reward.
I've seen some really cool matches on this, but Neoplanet S has been the most vetoed map, I believe, in the map pool, very close to Star Station. Obviously, it depends whether or not you have Zerg in the pool. We haven't seen Star Station at all today.
That's right, we have not.
So, you know, that's indicative of a lot of things, but we've actually seen Neoplanet S twice. Alright, well, let's see. This guy is up 1 game in this best-of-3 series. Will he be able to make it through? He is...
Complexity QXE.
He is in the Red Trunks playing Terran to the northeast position versus his opponent to the southwest, the young player, the very young player looking to make a name for himself. He is
Xenocider.
And he is in the Blue Trunks playing Terran to the southwest.
Xenocider currently down 0-1. Let's see what he's got in store. Last time we were facing in this TVT, QXE went for a really quick gas. No such thing in this regard. One thing that is really interesting is that no Terran really seems to feel comfortable going for a gases expand. Nope.
Well, we're down, I think, either the Argentinian or the Portuguese caster, one way or the other. We will be continuing regardless. We will not be regaming for that. You will be able to restream, of course. Well, yeah, earlier gas timing. All right. Well, this is what we saw from QXC previously. The question is, what is it for?
Well, Xenocider is delaying his gas. We're even
Yeah.
going to go gas less.
He could go 15 gas. That's a possibility, and it looks like he might. Looking at his rally point, I think he's going to get 15 gas. But and I'm okay with this 15 gas style, honestly. There we go.
Yeah. Is Totalbiscuit approve of it?
Yeah, not that it really matters. It's like I think it's a great style. It's absolutely fantastic. It's really, really good if you want to go 2-base battleship. It's like Battleship's not even a real unit. That's how cool it is. But yeah, don't take my advice.
It's a new legacy of the Void idea, man. You're
battleships.
disclosing very high NDA stuff.
Yeah, that's just how it's going to be. And Blizzard is beating down my door right now. But yeah, I've seen a lot of 15 gas from Terran in Heart of the Swarm, because it's a case of like, well, I need the gas, but do I need it right then? What exactly I'm going to do with it? And it usually results in a couple of Marines coming out and then a reactor thrown down directly after that. So you get this kind of weird swell of Marines at this odd time. And it means that you can actually be a little bit aggressive, you can poke, or you can be really defensive and not really have to worry about anything coming your way.
QXE is going to go for double Reaper opening.
Okay.
And Reapers do have a pretty decent reach on this map, much more so than maps like Whirlwind. Not as much as Star Station, which in my opinion is probably why a lot of Protoss players veto that map
Yeah,
against Terran. Let's see how Xenocider holds it off, because double Reapers can just end the game super quick if you're not careful. And if you tech really hard and you stop adding units on, who knows?
Well, that wasn't so good. Sent the SCV up the ramp there, and it just got immediately obliterated. It would have been nice to have one there, because we have seen this play which involves getting an actual bunker up on the high ground. If that happens, it's extremely difficult to dislodge the Reapers from that particular position. It delays the expansion significantly as well. SCVs, of course, can't go down the mineral, can't go down the ramp. But Xenocider is about to start his double Marine production. Now, let's see how we can deal with this. The double Reaper comes in, and the cool thing about the Reapers in this situation is you can pick away at the Marines, and you can then dip out. Ooh, that was so close. You can dip out and then heal. But that's 2 Marines down, and now it's going to be, what, 3, maybe even 4? Yeah, it's going to be 4 Reapers that hit him the next time around.
And it's gonna be tough because Xenocider, he wants to switch production. This is really greedy, and I think Xenocider senses also he might need more than just these 3 Marines to hold off the 4 Reapers that come up. QXC is walking to a trap. QXC, they won't have much space to back up. He does manage to take out one of the Marines though.
Yeah, he lost a Reaper, though, in the process. And once these Hellions are out, these Reapers are probably not going to do all that much. Reapers can beat Hellions, but they've got to play hit and run against them. You can't just fight straight up against double Hellions, especially not with Marines coming back there. Some damage done. Not as much as QXC would hope, I would imagine.
Yeah, and it was a really nice defensive maneuver. I've never personally pulled SCVs, and I think I should be in that scenario, just because, again, QXC went up the wrong ramp. If he just went up the regular way, actually,
that would have been
worked
amazing.
out for his benefit.
Yeah, Xenocider rolled the dice on that one, and it worked out pretty well. We've got Widowmines coming in, looking potentially for a drop play here. Quite likely to be a drop play. Could be Hellion Widowmine. That would be pretty nice to see. That would actually do significant damage. You've got the Widowmines going down, and then as the SCVs are pulled, they line up automatically. So that means that the Hellions can actually get really good shots off on them, which is a nice little technique. But we'll see if he decides to actually do that.
Yeah, from here, Xenocider has to know that he feels very comfortable with his opening, just because QXC put so much gas into those 4 Reapers. It's 200 gas, which you can't underestimate.
Yeah.
And so his anti-air defense or his anti-medevac defense is a little bit tough, because QXC, you can see his starport is just finishing, or sort of just starting his first medevac.
Yep.
So even if he had the first Viking, QXC will have a hard time dealing with this.
Reapers suddenly realizing they can't shoot up, so they're not going to be defending too well against this. And a Widowmine put into play, and it is going... Oh, nice scan. That was so quick there by QXC to scan that and get rid of it. Didn't manage to get a Widowmine down into the natural. He's still being aggressive here, but I think QXC's got this without too much of a problem. Boost goes in, and maybe he drops the Widowmine, but I think it's just going to die if he tries. So this has been nicely shut down here by QXC.
I still think forcing a scan, or even if you can get the second Widowmine and force another scan, would make Xenocider's position a lot stronger, just
definitely.
because, again, QXC's expansion is a little bit later.
Yeah.
Just slightly.
counter drop play here from QXC, looking to try and do some damage. The Widow Mines are, of course, at the front here for Xenocider, and we'll see where he decides to put the tanks. He's got one down the front. If he puts the second one where I think he's going to, this drop could actually do damage. Xenocider is still postured, but with a 9 HP medevac, it's very, very risky to attempt this. Just one false move and it goes down. Xenocider will instead decide to place this Widow Mine on the third base to try and deny the expansion and, of course, scout it. QXC is now tracking this, and he could combine the Reapers with this push here. He's got Hellions, he's got the drop ready to go into the back. This could be dangerous, but that tank, of course, is going to shut down the push at the front immediately.
Yeah, the two tanks completely puts Xenocide in a strong position, and the third command center has been discovered by QXC, so he realizes, oh man, my third timing is a lot later. But again, that's kind of the risk that he took. Oh, Xenocider getting a little over-eager with the Viking and loses as a result. That's a nice pick-off, but still QXC realizing that if he draws us out too far, well, he has to be really careful because right now Xenocider will have a strong lead in the mid-game based off production because of how fast his third command center finished.
Yeah, I would definitely agree. Now, we've got Xenocider moving back with this injured medevac. He'll be able to fix that up. Currently, we're in a situation where things are pretty equal, 44 SCVs apiece, with QXC with a slight supply lead, but of course that supply is sunk into Reaper, which is not really going to help him all that much. So we're in a weird stalemate position with Xenocider going for Biotank and his opponent also going for Biotank.
Yep, Marine Tank is just really good combination.
Yep.
You need mobility on this map. Even though you can go mech, it's a little trickier to cover both areas. I mean, you've seen players like Flash and Innovation, even Ty on Team 8 likes to do mech.
Yep.
I think... Ooh, this QXC does almost lose that medevac. I thought he was going to not pay attention to that. But I think right now these guys, even though it might seem like QXC is a little bit behind the mid-game, it still doesn't mean that Xenocider has a license to just push like he did in game number 1.
No.
Just because you have a production slight advantage, you can't do that. You have to take the map slowly, in my opinion.
Yeah, especially if it's Marine Tank versus Marine Tank. That's the kind of situation where one blunder costs you your army. So it's not a situation that you can just play laissez-faire with. It's not going to work out for you at all.
Well, see, the thing is, right now, Xenocider is also doesn't have map control whatsoever. So, and I like that QXC is also still using these Hellions and then Reapers to control the map. It tries to see if he can move out, if there's anything he has to be wary of. Xenocider also is moving his tanks out towards the natural and the third, so you can get a good spot of it, avoid drops. But pretty soon it's going to get to the point in game Totalbiscuit where neither player can really drop without the other person knowing.
Yep, that's very true. QXC's third was denied quite nicely there by that Widow Mine for a reasonable length of time. And then it was taken out just as the missile turret finished. Some damage was done, but not a huge amount. And now QXC is in a situation where he's got to get that saturated pretty quickly because Xenocide has already done that. Both of these guys posturing and not really doing a huge amount, and sensor towers being set up. So I think we're in for the long haul here.
Yep, I hope you guys brought snack because it's going to be a couple minutes before we see any true amount of action unless one player decides to impulsively push. Don't think QXC is kind of making aggressive movement, but he's already taking some damage on his tanks. And that's something you really have to consider because tank shots is something you calculate in your scans. You know that you have to take a couple tank shots in order to get into position with your own tanks. I don't know if QXC really intends on taking too aggressive a position because if Xenocider sees it, which he does with his sensor tower, I don't think he should be able to take any damage.
Xenocider's drop got shut down on the right side there. He did a little bit of damage, but nowhere near enough to justify it, in my opinion. Just a couple of workers killed here and there. QXC stimming quite a lot with 3 medevacs there. I mean, these guys are on full energy, so they should be fine, but I'm more worried about the fact that this isn't fixed, and there's 2 damaged tanks in that composition, so going in against Xenocider here doesn't really seem to make a huge amount of sense. We have the world's slowest Hellion here to the side that was stuck in the pack of Marines, just escorting them along there. Reminds me of old cars where they used to have the guys in the bowler hats walk in front of them with little flags. That was pretty much how it ended up being. And now we're going to see an engagement. Let's see who gets the best of this. QXC does not want to engage into that.
No, he's outnumbered in almost everything. Yeah. And this, even the medevac count, which might not seem like that big of a deal, but it kind of is. In TVT especially, fights become so ridiculously one-sided, even just by the smallest factor, like 1 extra tank or 5 extra Marines, and you can win overwhelmingly. Now, both players really need to see how many scans they have available and really trying to feel each other out. And you really need to take you also don't want to give up the high ground, which is something that Xenocider is really trying to do, making sure that it's not like QXC can run up any ramp. And Xenocider is going to take a really nice spot. It's going to be huge damage on QXC's army.
Kaboom! Bits of tank fly everywhere. Great engagement there by Xenocider. Now he can back off. He picks up another tank. Now he just needs to back off. No, don't engage into that. Don't throw away your advantage. Great moves, but QXC is about to drop on top of it. And does absolutely nothing.
Well, that didn't last very long. I really thought QXC had Hellbats in it because I saw a big chunk of units
there was a tank
inside
in it, and it just like died immediately.
Are you sure about this, QXC? It's like, yeah, go for it.
Yeah, that didn't work out well. Xenocide is in a great spot now. 10 tanks to 6, and he's got oh no, QXC! That is ridiculously hurtful. Like that is so offensive that you would take that to the teacher, and the teacher would expel the person that did it immediately without even asking for their side of the story. QXC, what are you doing?
Those Marines were like lemmings, man, just following one another to each other's deaths.
Yep, and the third just went down, and now QXC is actually firing, takes out the third of his opponent. Xenocider is pushing towards it. If QXC can hold on to his third after his opponent's lost that, then he might be in a good spot, but he still has to deal with the fact that there's tanks everywhere.
Yeah, there's tanks here pushing onto his third base. He can't really hold the natural whatsoever. QXC loses almost everything there, and sure, he shut down the third base, but he can't hold off the main force. A nice little tactic. QXC drops onto the tanks that are sieging his third base. Regardless, though, Xenocider seems to have stabilized back at home. QXC, he's losing a lot here, and the biggest thing is that Xenocider is being able to get a good position. There's no way that QXC can really engage this. It is not like he has any Vikings to spot. He has a low Marine count, so he can't really catch a lot of tanks on siege. In fact, I feel like Xenocider can unsiege some of his back tanks and just start pushing forward unsieged at this point.
Yeah, QXC does still have his third base, but the thing is that Xenocider had a spare command center. He was able to just reland and keep mining again. If that third legitimately died and there was no spare command center, I'd say QXC has a really great opportunity to get back into this game. But as it stands, this is going to be very difficult for him. He is contained. He does not have a way to deal with that.
And it's not impossible for QXC to break it.
Definitely
since,
not.
He still has his third, but the position is still really tough. Although I like that QXC sent some medevacs to reinforce his third base. Viking from QXC also pushing back some of the medevacs to the natural. A lot of action happening, but QXC seems to be holding on as tight as he can.
But yeah, I like this. QXC starting to pick off medevacs here just above this force, which is great because it gives him that air superiority, which lets you spot, and it forces your opponent to use scans. Taking out 2 medevacs for free is nice. QXC continues to hold on, and the supply count is starting to even up. Right now, QXC is holding this third base, but Xenocide is making a huge push into it.
Xenocider is really trying to take out this third base. He knows he can cripple his opponent. QXC lifting because he knows it's a bad situation, but he does have some reinforcements on the low ground. But still, Xenocider is able to pick up this command center. Huge lead. Big flank from QXC, though, over at the natural base. Finally takes out the tank force that was there outside of his natural expansion. Xenocider, he did lose a lot of army there, but at the same time, QXC sacrificed a lot in order to break the contain.
Yeah, he did. And losing the third as well is a big deal. He didn't have a spare command center, and right now there's still an army sitting on it. So QXC can clean that up, but it's a good position for Xenocider to do a lot of damage to his army, and Xenocider can afford that with 3 bases operational. I don't think QXC can. QXC's just going to run right up the ramp, right into a huge tank force, and take a lot of damage in the process. It looks like he's going to be able to break this, but at what cost?
Cost of a lot of army. Now, QXC did have +3 finish just as he engaged, and it was actually a great timing for him to move in there, if any. And he is kind of mined out of his main base. There's not too much to worry in that regards, but he does have to start thinking about a 4th base just because Xenocider has been relatively uninterrupted this entire time, and he has another command center, just like you're pointing out. He's able to replenish it and continue to add to his lead. So QXC still has a sizable force. He doesn't have to lead the game just yet, but it's a tall order for him to overcome, considering that now his upgrade advantage has been negated.
Yeah, and it's actually about to be exceeded. If he takes an engagement within the next 15 seconds, then Xenocider will have 3-3, whereas he will not have that +3 armor. And that will make a difference in the Marine versus Marine war. Xenocider rolls out here and looks to try and secure a 4th base, and QXC can't really do much about this. So, now we're in an awkward spot. Does QXC just start to aggressively drop all over the map again to try and deal with the fact that his opponent has superior position and army size? Possibility. QXC stims forward. A quick lift there by Xenocider, and in fact, all the tanks got lifted up there, so QXC got a decent engagement, but now he's rolling right back into there. He can't take that fight, surely. Xenocider is not stupid enough to run into that tank line.
No, it's a cute move from Xenocider to do that because I think he recognized his opponent didn't have any tanks to support those Marines, and he knows in a straight-up fight he has 3-3 compared to 3-2, so he's able to take that fight, all saving his tanks. Meanwhile, we see that QXC finally bringing his Vikings to try to get position, but in the meantime, Xenocider are going to triple drop QXC, either his third base or his main, and that can be extremely lethal blow considering that that's the remnants of QXC's economy.
Yeah, QXC also has like a bunch of Marines and a tank up to the southeast position there, which means that this main army from QXC is a lot weaker than it should be, and there is no defense on that third base. Those +3 Marines are going to massacre it.
And that's going to put QXC in a really awkward position. He runs back home, but it's not going to save the command center. Meanwhile, the run by has been pretty easily dealt with considering that Xenocider has tanks and easy reinforcements. I think this is slowly getting to the last moments. As soon as Xenocider can take a good position and flush out the rest of QXC's army, Xenocider will have in a great position to just finish the game.
Yeah, and QXC tries to defend as best he can, but I mean, you look at the economy, it's a mess. You don't have your third base anymore, you got 27 workers that don't even have any minerals to mine, and you have a smaller army, and you're slightly ahead in upgrades with the +1 there, but it's 11 tanks to 6 in favor of your opponent. This is not going to go well. If QXC can come back from this, it will be a miraculous display of TBT prowess. He's not out of it yet, and, you know, we can say that the armies are actually quite equal because of that low worker count, but I'm not necessarily liking the position of QXC here, not by any stretch of the imagination.
No, and by all means, QXC should still stay in this game because he has an enormous army. It's just that he has to make this one army work, and that's what makes it so difficult because no matter what, DVT, you will be trading unless you completely catch your opponent off guard, not paying attention to the army. Xenocider just doing what he can to zone, but he really needs his tank support. I do think that Xenocider needs to start locking down different avenues because QXC's been given too much mobility. That said, I think the sensor towers is really good to try to lock down those avenues. But QXC, I mean, what can he really do? He still has so much supply room, but he has to move his last remaining orbital in order to get some semblance of minerals.
Yeah, he's adding more tanks into the mix. He has to get one ridiculously good engagement and then at least take one base away from his opponent. That's what he's got to do. I think if he can hold this position... Oh, man. Xenocide is already on him. He knows he's got to expand, and he takes more SCVs away from him and forces his opponent back, which is messy indeed. They then gets the cleanup on the drop, which attempted to prevent the fourth base from going back down again from Xenocider. So things are looking absolutely fantastic for him. It's currently 137 supplied, 183. There's 19 workers. Army supply is in favor of Xenocider now as well. So... all the cards are in Xenocider's hand. It really is up to QXC to pull a miraculous bluff, a really good move. He stims in, but it's not quite enough, and the tanks get established, and the shelling comes in as well. SCV sent forward here. Lovely move by Xenocider to weaken the tanks as the splash does damage here. A quick move up, but another tank shelling taking here several times. There's tanks everywhere. Oh, QXC is completely trapped in a crossfire here. He's pretty much dead by the looks of it at this stage.
Yep, QXC has no real amount of Marines to support any tanks. He is heavily outmatched. QXC trying to go for tactical drops with an Ignite afterburners, but there's really nothing QXC can do. He even tries to bluff in this regard, but or actually just get some vision for his tanks.
Yeah.
Xenocider, he has a fourth base. I mean, QXC barely is mining anymore. I feel like Xenocider, if he can kind of calculate everything, make sure to know that he's not mining, he would be able to be a lot more anxious and pushing because he doesn't have vision on the other side of the map. Yeah,
there's a big drop coming in towards that fourth base as well, which is not a planetary. That means it dies to those 3-3 Marines about 5 seconds flat, as we are about to see. That is probably going to be the coup de grace, I think, and there it is. GG. Xenocider takes it to 1 apiece.
Really well done. A lot of movement back and forth. And I like that Xenocider really emphasized sensor towers. One of the easiest ways is just like that last drop or many drops we've seen before that is the run bys with Marines to just kill off workers, kill off the command center in those late game scenarios. Again, sensor towers are fairly underrated. Xenocider covered all of his bases in that regard, so I guess it doesn't matter if he doesn't have offensive vision, but if he can keep track of all the avenues of attack, he'll be good to go.
Oh yeah. Now, where the hell are we in terms of this series? we saw Xenocider play a masterful Marine tank play, as far as I'm concerned. QXC seemed not to be able to keep up with him in that regard. Now, I suppose the question then becomes, what do we see? Do we see a lot of aggression coming out of the gate from either of these guys? We did see that big Reaper play. It did not work out well for QXC.
Yeah, and it could have. Just Xenocider dealt with it really well, and you can't really blame QXE for trying that. But now that it's already been said and done, I think Xenocider has shown that his build order is very versatile in the opening, and I want to see how QXE chooses to adapt, because we haven't seen any kind of movement for Banshees or anything else. We've just seen kind of Reaper openings from QXE.
Well, it is very true. Alright, well, we're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, we're going to be looking into Game 3, the final map of Group D, the final map of the round of 16. Will it be Xenocider? Will it be QXC going through to face Kane in the round of 8? We'll find out after this break.